Okay, so this is the part 3 of this training. So let's jump into this concept now. So your auditor is there. They are requesting for certification details for AWS resources. What are AWS resources? Something like AWS Redshift, AWS S3, and so on. Anything to do with certification details and so on, you have to use Artifact. This will give you access to AWS and ISV security and compliance reports. For example, I was working for a client and the client told, hey, are your resources GDPR compliant or are they HIPAA compliant, etc. and so on. So I can download these reports from Artifact and share it with the client and say, hey, you know what, these resources are HIPAA compliant and so on. Now, if the question asks you about like what is the low cost and long duration data storage in S3, we are talking about object storage in S3. Okay, if that is the case, then there is something called S3 Glacier Deep Archive. Deep Archive is just like the in your refrigerator you have the coldest zone on Earth. If you look at the North Pole, Alaska, and those kind of regions, they are extremely cold. Why do we send data there, or why do we send food products in your cold storage? Something like your meat, chicken, fish, and etc. You put it in the cold storage. Why? Because you are not going to use it very frequently. Second, uh, in terms of food, we also want to maintain the quality of food. That is why we refrigerate it. But in terms of data, it is not about quality of data. It is about long-term storage at the cheapest price. The cheapest price. So I was working for a client, and the client told that, hey, you know what? I have a lot of data on tapes. There are backup tapes. In the older days, we used to use these backup tapes, and then we are asked to migrate the data. So in that case, we do migrate the data into AWS S3. But since a lot of data is not used frequently, if that is the case, then we choose to put it on Glacier. So these can be raw data. These can be data that is very huge petabyte scale database data sets, and the data is retained for compliance. For example, RBI in India, it says to the banks, maintain your data sets for 7 to 10 years for any audits. For example, some businessman does a fraud and they want to know 7 years back what happened, who approved the loan, how much was it granted, what deviance or process violation did occur, and what does the data store tell to us. So from that perspective, it is important we store that data for 7 to 10 years. You have to put it in deep archive because you want to save that data. Nobody is going to use it frequently, but you would not want to save it in S3 active layers so that you keep spending a lot of money. You want to do it at dirt price. Okay, it is all about money, man. Now let us look at the next topic. You have a compliance requirement to record and reevaluate configuration changes. What are configuration changes? Suppose you create a EC2 instance. This is your EC2 instance. You create it, okay, and then tomorrow, after like not tomorrow, say after a week, you are off. You went for vacation and you're coming back after 2 months. Okay, no, nobody gets a 2 month vacation, but imagine that you are in that lalag world, a fantasy world. You get a 2 month vacation, okay, and imagine that you are not working for Infosys, TCS, and these Indian branded companies. So you get a 2 month vacation. La la la. Now what? Now what? Now what? So you come back and you see that people who were doing a backup for you, like who were supporting you in your absence, now you want to know what have they done, what configuration changes have they done. Okay, you want to know that, you can do that through AWS Config. It will have all the details, whether it is you or suppose someone comes and audits. Hey, you are saying that your systems are HIPAA compliant, show me in the audit logs how it is HIPAA compliant, and you can show it to them. Now let me quickly walk you through best practice. See, these are IAM best practices. IAM best practices, identity access management. What is this? Like, imagine this as a key to your home. Do you give your keys to any Tom, Dick, and Harry? Do you keep your keys on the road and say, hey, anybody who's walking and you want to access my home, you can? Do you do that? No, you do not do that, right? So the best practice is create individual IAM users. For example, you have a big basket daily guy coming in. So you have an individual access for that person to your apartment complex. Suppose you have a Swiggy guy coming in, a Zomato guy coming in. They all have individual IAM access, individual access. You are not saying that since I have approved for a Swiggy guy to come in, that means a Swiggy Instamart guy can come in, a Zomato guy can come in, Amazon delivery guy can come. No, each person will have their own IAM users. Second is use groups to assign permissions. That means like Swiggy guy, Zomato guy, Amazon guy, all are delivery guys. Create a group for delivery. Uh, allocate these three people in that group, and they have the common functions. What? They will get into the apartment complex, they will deliver the products, and they will go away. Got it? So that is the group. So they have a similar function. They are all delivery guys. They have a similar function. Similarly, in AWS, you have to assign a group. Okay, these are the people who will access Quicksight reports. Okay, these are the people who will access AWS glue jobs. They will run the jobs and do these kind of functions. Okay, I create a separate group for them. So these are IAM best practices. Whatever I am walking you through, these are all a part of certification questions. Okay, we are not doing PhD. Okay, we do not want to do PhD. We just want to pass the certification exam. Now, the next topic, manage encryption option on S3 buckets. Okay, you want to manage the encryption options. Why we are encrypting the data? Because the world is very bad. The world is very bad. Okay, we have to encrypt the data. Nowadays, even your smartphone is not safe. If you are having photographs of yourself, no wonder anybody can hack it and do morphing on those photographs or videos and so on. Okay, so world has become very bad, typically the digital players. So you have to encrypt your data. Okay, how do you do it and who does it? This is a company responsibility. That means your responsibility, not AWS responsibility. You have to choose and say, hey, I want to enable the encryption options because it is your data. Okay, you decide it. So if you are putting something on S3 bucket, some banking transactions, you have to encrypt it. Otherwise, it is not safe. Do you sometimes see the husband is driving and he crashes the car and his family dies or gets severely injured? So what has the wife done? The wife is always saying, please drive safely. The kids are just enjoying. But the husband, in the rush of blood, that guy dashed someone, okay, and met with an accident. So it is a collective kind of, this is the husband's responsibility. Okay, AWS will not, or other people cannot take that responsibility. So similarly, here this is your responsibility. You are responsible. The AWS cannot take that responsibility. You cannot say that, the husband cannot say, hey, the car was from Hyundai, so the Hyundai should take that responsibility. No, boss, Hyundai will not take that responsibility. It is your responsibility. You are the driver of the car. Here also, it is your data. You know whether I want to make it safe or not. Not every data I have to encrypt. There are certain data sets which I don't worry. Why should I encrypt? Okay. Now in the certification, you can get a question where it says, hey, you know what, I want a pre-installed EC2 instance. That means, see, right now what happens, you create a EC2 instance, then you bootstrap. What is bootstrap? The moment it is warming up, getting up, you install. What can you install? You can install your web application, you can install, say, some ETL application like Informatica, or some reporting applications like ClickSense and so on. Okay, here they are saying, boss, I want a EC2 instance which already has this installed. Boss, then if that is the case, you have to go to marketplace. What happens with marketplace? See, suppose you, my friend, listen to me. You are deciding, let us make money out of AWS. Okay, so since you are very shrewd, you are very cunning, you are looking for opportunities to make money. Okay, if that is the case, then this is the time, man. You create EC2 instances, you install different softwares, create a AMI, Amazon Machine Image, and sell it on marketplace. I'm giving you a business opportunity, man. This is a business options. Sell it on marketplace. People may like your downloads, and they may download and they may like your product. Okay, so that is what we are saying. If that is the case, you have to go to marketplace. You yourself can sell something, or there are a lot of people who have created these things and you can use it. Now AWS always try to test this knowledge. It will say, I want to centrally manage security policies. What is central management of security policies? You suppose you are staying in an apartment complex, okay, and there is a team of security guards. What they do, Why we have a team there? Because we are centrally managing. We don't want to talk to each and every security guard. There is a department. We deliver messages that boss, these should be your ground rules, and it gets cascaded to different security guards. Okay, so that is central management. You create a policy, you tell them, boss, from tomorrow onwards, Swiggy guys will come in. You will have to allow with exceptional approval. Okay, so they will implement it. That is central. Okay, so you want to centrally manage these policies and billing services also. So in AWS organization, AWS organization is the product. Okay, this certification is all about knowing the products. What is the purpose? Okay, this guy, imagine your security team in your apartment complex. Okay, if you are staying in a large apartment complex, then this will apply. If you are staying in a one building kind of complex where you have just one security team, it is easy to tell. There is no centralization required, you just have one. So here, what the point I'm trying to make is, AWS organization who will use, who have big businesses, multiple departments and so on. Okay, just like a big apartment complex, like in Bangalore, Salpuria, they have big apartment complexes. They build big apartment complexes, so they can do that. Or in Mumbai, Hiranandani's, Raja Vihar, and those kind of stuff. So they will have like a department of security teams and multiple security guards and so on. So they, for such big organizations, AWS organization makes sense. Small organization, don't even worry about it. Now let me talk about the concept. See, people say, they go to buy a product and they say, hey, Apple products are very reliable. When they say very reliable, means what? Means what? Reliable means whatever I do, it does not break. I throw it in water, it is still waterproof. Okay. By throwing in water, it does not mean going into Titanic and getting in lost there. No, it is not that. That Titan submarine, we are not talking about that. We are talking about just by mistake it fell somewhere on in the water. You immediately remove it. It is still going to work. Okay, that means it is reliable, reliable, reliable. You work in TCS, Infosys, Wipro, etc. We generally, managers will say, hey, is this guy reliable? Reliable means what? He will not care for money. He will not worry about working only 8 or 9 hours. He can work 12, 14 hours without asking for more money, without cribbing, and he will still be happy. Okay, that is reliable in these Indian companies. So reliability, we are calling reliability. What we say, if you want to make it reliable, you should put it in AWS, different AWS regions. Why? Because see, you have an application you have put in multiple regions. Okay, suppose this region crashes, what happens? The other two regions are still active, your application is still up, and you can put automatic failover. Suppose the moment this guy says, I'm failing, boss, so this guy will send a message to this guy and say, boss, you now get activated. This is called automatic failover. You suppose one guy in your team, he's only doing ticket resolution, he fails ill, what happens? He is, before he fails ill, he's saying, boss, tomorrow I'm today I'm not feeling well, tomorrow I might fall sick, you take this transition from this. Okay, so that means the other person is active, the process is still reliable, the client can still rely on your team. Now, in the certification, a lot of time you will get this question where they try to test your knowledge around how do you provide access. Like, you know what you have, for example, you have this bucket. Okay, this is your bucket, and you have objects stored here. Some people you will give read access, some people you will give write access, some people will have both access. How will you do that? What feature of AWS will you use? This is something which you would be quizzed on. The answer should be ACL, that is access control list. So you will just have to create the list and divide, like so many people can read, so many people can write, so many people can have both read write. Okay, now, which AWS service is always free? What does it mean, always free? What it means is, if you are having a free tier service, it is free, obviously. But if you are having a paid tier, an enterprise plan, a business support plan, and so on, it is still free. And my friend, it is still free. So that service is AWS IAM, Identity Access Management. Why do you use it? Suppose you want to create a user list, like this is the username, and you have to, you can create that list for, you can use it for authorization, for authentication, and so on. Okay, but this is free. It is just like your parents, your father and mother. This is free. They give you all, like they pay for you, right? They pay for your food expenses, they pay for your education, your travel, and so on. Plus they also give you the luxury to blame them if they are not able to afford the that much that you are expecting, kind of. Now, the beauty of this certification is they will also try to test your knowledge on encryption. So what it means is, see, encryption, like I always say, there are two types of encryption. There are two types. First is encryption at rest, encryption at rest, encryption at rest. Second, encryption in motion. Whenever you have something in motion, you have to encrypt, you have to use TLS. Okay. But if for example, you have to do encryption at rest on S3 buckets, what will you do? You have to use server-side encryption. That means the moment the data is entering S3, it gets encrypted. Why is encryption required? Because anybody can hack your data, they can get access to your data, and they can play around and manipulate the data. Now, which service offers security for a VPC? By acting as a firewall. Okay, it itself acts as a firewall to control the traffic in and out. Network ACL. Network ACL is a service. It will act as a firewall, and it is used to control the inbound and the outbound traffic. Now, the certification also asks sometimes that, hey, you know what? We have multiple EC2 instances, like this EC2 instance, this EC2 instance, and they give you options like, should I place them in different regions, in different data centers, in different availability zones, and so on. See, boss, the best would be you have to keep them on the same hardware. Okay, that means on a single AZ, single data center, if required, same hardware. Okay, that would be the fastest, because that would minimize the network latency. What do you mean by latency? That means the moment you type www.amazon.com, you get the response immediately. Why? Because you have a attention span of a kid. Second, why? Because we, our generation, or it's not our generation, but whoever, it may be millennials, it may be like baby boomers and those kind of generation, everybody who's currently, they are all using social media, they are all using reels. What happens in reels? You get, like, every 3 minutes, every 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, these videos are very short and they are very popular because you just watch them for like 5 6 seconds, swipe, and that's it. Okay, you got entertained. So that is giving you minimum latency. You are getting used to it, and what happens is, if you're getting used to it, the moment you wait for 5 or 8 seconds for a website to load, you might very well think, hey, in this time I could have watched one more reel or one more TikTok. Now, you know about different support plans, right? AWS has different support plans. You also have free tier, but when you are using it for production workloads, you do not use a free tier. Nobody uses a free tier. You also should not use a free tier for production workloads. So now, which tier? It will give you access to a TAM, that is a technical account manager, or a concierge support team. That means this team will be there to help you out with so many things. Obviously, it is pretty obvious that it has to be a plan which is expensive. Okay, it is your enterprise support plan. It is just like, you get a dedicated team of people who will be always there for access and etc. So it all costs money. So it is available with the enterprise support plan. Now, one question it quizzes you around is, you have a cloud adoption framework, and they say, hey, you know what, in an organization, which role will have this responsibility? And they tell you that, okay, is it a CDO role? Is it a CEO role? Is it a CIO role? So always remember, it is a CIO, Chief Information Officer, who would be responsible for cloud adoption framework. They will understand this framework. They will tell their organization, hey, you know what, they will cascade it to different people and say that, boss, you have to adopt means this is the process, follow this process. If you don't follow it, I'll whip your ass. Okay, that is what the CIOs will do. Now you get such questions where they say, you know what, hey, we are trying to uh, use a website and we are trying to load images, the images are taking too much time to load. What should be the solution? So the solution should be what? It should always be CloudFront. This is a solution which will help you. It will help you with what? With loading the images fast, low latency. Example, Netflix, they use such service. Amazon Prime, they use such service for video stream. But you can use this for something like if you have like Facebook, Instagram, you can use it so that you get the lowest latency, the photographs download faster and faster. Now, if you talk about recommendation engine, what is a recommendation engine? Have you gone to Amazon.com and bought a product, and the moment you buy that product, it gives you a recommendation? What is a recommendation? They say, hey, you know what? People who bought books, they also bought pens, they also bought pencils, they also bought an eraser, and so on. So these are recommendations. That means it is all tied up in a node kind of structure so that the relationships or the correlation can be defined. In AWS, you have graph database called AWS Neptune. Okay, this is the service which will help you store such data sets so that a recommendation engine can be built. So AWS Neptune is that product. If you want to remember this with the name of a planet. Neptune is a name of a planet, and it is meant for graph kind of database. You can write graph QLs. See, with simple databases, RDBMS, you write SQLs, but here you write GraphQLs. So in the certification, you will get questions where they say, you know what, I have this workload and I know it has to run at daytime or nighttime and blah blah blah. It will give you those scenarios and it will say, but I can afford interruptions. Tell me which EC2 plan or instance we should use. Always remember, if you can afford interruptions, go for Spot Instances. These are dirt cheap. You bid for it, you bid for the lowest price, you get that, you use it. But if someone bids higher than you, it will be taken away. So you should be ready for to afford interruptions. Uh, so can you use it for production workloads? You cannot, right? Because your production workloads are critical. You cannot rely on this kind of arrangement. So who will use it? For example, development environments, you can use it to save costs. Or, you know, a lot of times students use this because they are short of cash and money, and then they find it really lucrative using such services. Or if you work for Indian companies like L&T, Mindtree, and those companies where you know your company rarely sponsors your cloud environment costs. In that case, you can leverage these support plans like Spot Instances you can use for deploying your web applications or any other applications that you want to put on the EC2 instances. You can do that. Okay, so this is a mode which is available for survival and still get things going. Now in the certification as well as in real life, believe me, in real life as well, this is important, is you which service will you use, which will tell you, hey, you know what, this is the right size EC2 instance. In order to do that, you have a service called AWS Compute Optimizer. This service will help you estimate, like, get the right size of the EC2 instance. It will tell you, okay, you should go with the type M, and this should be the RAM size, storage space, and so on. So if you're not clear which configuration of EC2 instance you should go ahead with, use Compute Optimizer and get guidance on this. Now, what happens is, in the AWS world, we all know we have the cost and usage report. Okay, it tells you about this is what you are using and this is what it is costing. Now, the thing is, this you want to visualize this. Okay, anything in AWS world, if you want to visualize, what will you use? Simple. You will always use Quicksight. You will use Quicksight. You will use Quicksight. Visualization means Quicksight. Quicksight. Can you tell me a product and some external product which are similar to Quicksight? Tableau, ClickSense, Cognos, Business Objects, MicroStrategy, Power BI, okay, something from Pentaho, uh, and then there are so many other open source BI products. So like Google has Google Looker, okay, Azure has Power BI, so AWS has Quicksight. So this is the visualization tool which you have the cost and usage data. You want to visualize it, you plug Quicksight and visualize it. What does visualization means? Visualization means you want to see it in a graphical format, something like this, or you can see it in a kind of a bar chart. You can create such bar charts and you can see the data there. So it's up to you. Now, this brings us to the end of part 3. By the way, we have posted new parts of the question sets in the members area. Cloud, uh, kernel, Cloud Ninja members can access it. Do visit those question sets. Remember, we are not doing PhD, we are just focused on clearing certifications. That's why this training plan that we have created is specifically to help you target questions which are really important. The way it is asked in the certification, that is the way we are trying to narrate it to you so that you find it very easy answering these questions in the certification exams. Do not forget to visit the members area for new parts uploaded which has questions answers for more practice, and lots of people have cleared certification using these contents, so do not miss out that opportunity. See you in the next part.